The regular meeting of the Clarke County Board of Education will not come to order. Ms. McNamara, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Payne?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Parks?
Here.
Mrs. Ellis?
Here.
Mr. Worthy?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Huff?
Here.
Ms. Thornton?
Okay, thank you very much. Before we get into the silent meditation, I'd like for each of you to stand and let's give our superintendent another warm congratulations. Okay. State, the national, and the key to the city of Athens. That's all right. Good week. Okay. Now I have you to stand again. We'll do a silent meditation. We'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And this is, I'm sorry. Yep. We have an amendments to the agenda.
We do, President Worthy, a number 11 I would like to add, and that's dealing with a change order for SPLOS 4 for Clarke Central, and that would be to add modulars to the current 9th grade classroom due to anticipated enrollment and needs for classroom for portable space.
Okay, that's item 11. It's a change order, and you should have that at your place this evening. Okay.
And I would make a note that at our planning session, we did decide on the consent agenda, so it's out of norm because we only have one meeting. So if there's any consent items that people would like to be pulled off, we could do that before we amend the agenda.
Okay, we'll move on then. All righty then, I need a motion to amend the agenda. Moved by Mr. Payne, got a second. Second by Mr. Huff. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous vote. Now I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Mr. Payne, second by Ms. Williams. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, now on this recognition of achievements and awards.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Mr. National Superintendent of the Year, and members of the board. Tonight, I'm pleased to recognize many outstanding individuals from the Clarke County School District. But before I do that, we have a special recognition for Georgia School Board's Appreciation Week. One of the board's most important, if not the most important responsibility, is hiring a superintendent. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire community when I say, job well done. And on that note, before we continue our remarks for School Board Appreciation Week, we have a special acknowledgement for Dr. Lanou.
Oh, no, I'm just the board.
Just like Mr. Worthy said, the state, the nation, and now a key to the city. We had the front page of the Athens Banner Herald.
All right.
All right.
And now I will turn it over to Dr. Lanou for a moment to offer some remarks and to recognize the board, and then I will continue with the regular recognitions.
Again, and it's certainly my pleasure to do so, but certainly in all the conversations I've had recently, both at the state level and the national level, the work of the board is primary. It's primary to my work. It's primary to work at the district level and actually getting right down to the classroom. And I can remember keenly, for those that were part of the interview committee, one of the conversations that we had is that the board really needs to be out of the newspaper and our kids in classrooms need to be in the newspaper. And that's not like what it's like in a lot of districts. Right. When you open up the front page and it's the board, and in Clarke County, the front page are our children. And I think that speaks volumes to the work of the board. because it's really understand the roles of responsibilities of the board to make the ultimate decisions around the direction of the school district. And if you haven't been, so I've been very vocal, and I'm not trying to get political, but I've been very vocal even of recent in the Opportunity School District that I believe strongly, both as a professional and in my heart, that the board needs to be the decision makers for education in the community. So with that said, I think this board has done an incredible job. They have fostered a level of trust in our community that I think it's easy for the conversations to occur at any level with just the highest level of freedom, knowing that it's always about thoughtful input. It's also been incredible about the strength of the planning of this board. We said before when we did a strategic plan, we're going to follow it. If we need to change it, we'll change it, but we'll do it deliberately and we'll do it strategically. I think what that's allowed us to do is to stay focused on the work. If you notice, we don't have all, oh, why don't we do this today? Well, a bit once in a while, but that's okay. But I think if it doesn't align to the work of the district, we don't do it, and that's kept us really focused. So I couldn't be more proud to work with this board, and more appropriate than to recognize you as the board, and I will go to you as this is Georgia School Board Appreciation Week, and we do appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Payne.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Mr. Parks. Thank you. Yeah, Mike's sitting down now. Oh, wait, I gotta get this. Mr. Worthy. Thank you, sir.
I get out of there.
Thank you.
All righty. Wonderful.
Yep, I'll get myself out of order. I'm ready to get back in. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you. Ms. Williams, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoff, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And now we have several other honorees to recognize tonight. Tonight we'd like to recognize our Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl regional winners. The Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl is a quiz show style competition in which teams of 5 to 10 students in grades 4 through 12 answer questions on the 20 Georgia Book Award books or 20 Georgia Peach Award books. We are so proud of Hillsman Middle School because they have won the middle school district and regional bowl, placing second at the Divisional 2 Bowl and fourth in the entire state of Georgia. And so tonight we have their team here, and we'd like to recognize them tonight. So students, when I call your name, please come forth, accept your certificate, and go around and shake the board members' hands. First up is Eliza Everson.
Hard being first.
Sure. William Fang. Colin Frick. Congratulations. Sachio Goody. Welcome. Knox Huff. So we know this is a special recognition for board member David Huff to have his son recognized. Tristan Lankford. Soccer. Alex Martin. Benjamin Michael. Amelia Pisaric. Congratulations. Denton Redmond. Congratulations. And of course, their coach, Leslie Gonzalez. One for you and one for the school. Thank you. Yes.
Congratulations. Thanks for your work.
Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Totally, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you so much. Great work. Thank you.
Another bit of really big and wonderful news we received this week was that Barrow Elementary School media specialist Andy Plemons was named by the National School Boards Association to their list of 20 to watch top technology educators for 2014-15. Those on the list have been recognized for their ability to inspire colleagues to explore and embrace innovative digital learning solutions that lead to stronger teaching and learning practices. You may also recall recently Mr. Plemons was a finalist for School Library Journal School Librarian of the Year, only given to 3 librarians in the nation. He's also Clarke County's only Google certified teacher. I love this quote Dr. Lanou gave for a press release on him, which I really think summarizes what makes Andy stand out from everyone else. Andy Plemons is an innovator and leader that makes a difference in our district, state, and nation. He sets the highest standard, but what is most impressive is how he seamlessly blends innovative digital learning environments with ensuring he has a personal relationship with each child. And so tonight we are very pleased to recognize Andy, and you're all in for a real treat because he has a special presentation on digital learning during Dr. Lanou's report tonight. So Mr. Plemons.
Congratulations. We're lucky to have you. You are awesome.
And finally, we have tonight's 4-star employee award winners. And so first up is Maria Jimenez, internal auditor with the school district's administrative offices. Congratulations. So you can stand. We'll have you stand here. We'll have our winners stand so they can hear the nice things that were said about them. And I just wanted to say from my office, Maria regularly does emergency weather translations, which recently I needed many of. So although we're both Jimenezes, only one of us speaks Spanish. So I'm grateful for you. And we had actually 2 individuals nominate Maria this month. One was Selena Blankenship, principal at Hillsman Middle School, and she said, Maria Jimenez is a hidden gem in this district. Over the last 2 months as we have been in transition, Maria has helped me re-educate our staff on procedures and researched issues that needed resolving. We are in a great position to bring a new person into this position and have them take over without any lingering issues. Maria has done all of this with grace and professionalism. The staff at Hillsman and I truly appreciate all she has done over the last 2 months for us. She is very deserving of this recognition, and we are proud to claim her as a Hillsman Panther. And her other nomination was from Jeannie Bradley, who's her coworker and is the director of finance here at the school district. And Jeannie said, in the 5.5 years that I have worked with Maria, I have been amazed by her integrity and tenacity. She is always willing to do whatever is needed to get the job done while maintaining a positive attitude. In her position as internal auditor, she has been given the task of auditing the schools to see if they are in compliance with the district's accounting policies. This is a very tough position to be placed in, as it is hard to tell someone they've done something wrong. Maria accomplishes this task with professionalism and grace. She knows how to delicately address the issues without making the individuals feel bad. She is always willing to provide additional training if needed and or to assist with correcting any issues. On numerous occasions, she has worked with the schools and the chief financial officer to find alternate solutions to complicated situations. The finance department is stronger because Maria is a part of it. Our school district is stronger because you're a part of it.
Wow.
Great job.
Next is Kathleen Mills, EIP teacher at Barrow Elementary School. Is Ms. Mills here? Wonderful. And she was nominated for this award by her coworker, Carrie Yawn, and this is what Ms. Yawn had to say about you. Hardworking, diligent, reliable, caring, encouraging, proactive, dependable, organized, student-centered. These are just a few of the words that my teammates and I use to describe Ms. Kathleen Mills. Now, to those descriptors add the phrases, works with multiple grade levels and first-year teacher. And it is no question that Mrs. Mills is deserving of an honor such as the 4-Star Award. Mrs. Mills works with direct groups of students as well as collaborates in the classrooms of 4 second-grade teachers. She keeps track of a plethora of data that helps each of the homeroom teachers that she works with to gain more insight into some of our most challenging learners. Even though she is a first-year teacher, she spent last year at Barrow student teaching in the fall and then long-term subbing the entire spring, taking over mid-year for a teacher who had to be out. She is an asset to our kids, and Clarke County is lucky to have her. Congratulations.
You are really special.
Great job, thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
And finally, Abby Wise, first grade EIP teacher at Cleveland Road Elementary School, who was nominated by her coworker Wesley Glosson. And here's what he had to say. Mrs. Wise's first year at Cleveland Road Elementary has gotten off to a grand start. Too often, first-year teachers are not recognized, even when their performance is sterling. Believe me, Mrs. Wise's is just that. If you wonder why Ms. Wise doesn't have behavior problem children in her room, the answer is in her management. The most challenging students at the beginning of the year are now well behaved. As the school's behavior interventionist, I have had the pleasure of observing a couple of students that we thought would have trouble behaving. However, because Ms. Wise meets those students with a cheerful disposition every morning, and because she leaves no doubt in their mind that she cares, their behavior is nearly perfect. We all hear Ms. Wise's voice, classy, classy, and then we hear the class's response, yesy, yesy. Though this ringing chant once drove me nuts, I now smile. Why? Because it works. Thank you for all you do, Ms. Wise. Congratulations.
We need a bottle.
So great, thank you.
Thanks for what you do. Congratulations.
Again, on behalf of the Clarke County School District and Board of Education, congratulations. You make your district proud, and you make us all proud to be CCSD. Thank you.
And that it is another proud to be CCSD. Certainly to our students, you just represent us so well. Thank you. You know, every time we have our students go outside our we call it our county, I just get nothing but rave reviews, and same for this team and others. So I just want to say thank you for, you know, putting in that extra. We hope it pays off for you, and it definitely pays off for us. So thank you very much. And obviously to our employees who just continue to do incredible work individually and collectively, just making a difference every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Lanoux, we're down to item D, Superintendent's Report.
And you're right, you have a treat coming up, so I'm not gonna, yeah, look at Andy's going, yeah, ha-ha. But just a couple things. One, and we were at Finance Committee, I just want to thank Mr. Hamill and his team, just where we are at the budget process. He has just been incredible and certainly preparing at least the preliminary budget for our collective review, and then to bring to the board in the first week of April. So it really is by far the best process, and by far I think the best place we've ever been in my 6 years. So his team has been terrific. I'd also make a note that we have a training session with the board the week after March that we typically have used for our budget. I'm going to recommend at this time that we not have that, just because I think our budget's in good shape and I think we can cover it at our regular work session. I will go back and we'll have to add another work session, and we'll do that in our June, but I think that will definitely get us our hours. But I think at this point, I don't want to just put something in when we could better use that time later. Would that be a problem with the board? That would, I'll reschedule it later. I'm gonna go look at our calendar. I think I have another March 19th, just the Thursday. It'd be 2 weeks from today. Barring no one, I'm gonna take
You're
that.
saying March 19th.
Had one scheduled for March 19th. I'm gonna take that off the calendar. We'll look at our calendar and we'll try to get usually our summer retreat work session. We can count those hours. Let's do that in June and we'll be in good shape. How would that be?
Sounds
Are
great.
you okay with that? Because we've done some pretty good work so far. I'd also like to note that we have started, thanks to Mr. Hardaway and others, we're trying something different. We call it the Back on Track program, so that we do have some students who just have not been successful at the high school during the course of this year. So we've worked with the Ombudsman program and some of their individuals to use up our seats in time, so it's not added money. That actually, they will go in the afternoon. We're going to take them out of the courses that they're not doing well. They'll stay in their courses in their schools in the morning when they're doing well, and we'll use some new individualized courses at Ombudsman so they can go back in and try to recoup those grades that they would not have passed by the end of the school year. So we're being really creative. We're going to use those seats. We've got them all signed up. Parents says, great, right, Ernest? But from Cedar and from Clarke Central. So we'll have a number of students. They'll go to the regular schedules during the day, and then they'll go over to Ombudsman, do really blended learning, and get back on track to make sure they get those credits. So trying to be really creative, because it's really important for us to keep those students on track. So I'm really excited about that. All right, that's it for me. You're in for a treat. Mr. Clemens, you are on, and this will give you an entree into what happens at Barrow and what's happening across our district. But I hope this really gives you a strong sense of what digital learning means in our district.
Okay.
All right. And we need to move that just a little bit.
Twist it around.
Okay. Can we see it over there a little bit, or you want to
Move that chair back out.
Or you want to move, David,
Yeah, just move that chair back. That's good.
or just move over here? How would that be?
Yeah.
All right. We're good.
Okay.
So one of the phrases that you hear me say often in our school is to expect the miraculous. And that came from Kate DiCamillo's book, Flora and Ulysses. And so it's not a fluffy term by any means. It's really about taking big risk and knowing that whatever we try with our students, that there will be miraculous things that happen if we keep our eyes open and we're listening to our students and seeing what they can figure out on their own. So I have 4 big goals that I work on in the library. One is to provide students, teachers, and families opportunities to dream, to tinker, to create, and share. And I chose those words in that specific order very intentionally, that I think we have to give kids a space to dream and tinker before we ask them to create something very specific. That if we give them a space to tinker, they figure out so many things on their own, and it gives us more time to focus on the creation and getting their work to an authentic audience. My second goal is to engage in global thinking and global collaboration. I think with the technology tools that we have today, now more than ever, we have this chance where we can engage in conversations with people outside of the walls of our school. We can get our students' work to an authentic audience. We can create work with students outside of our school. We can talk to developers of the apps that we're using or the different tools that we're using and help them make those better with our student voices. And you've already heard me say this several times already, but empowering student voice. I want to look for ways to give kids a voice in their world and really feel like they can make a difference. And my final goal is supporting the reading habits and curiosities of students, teachers, and families, and doing that in multiple ways. So I'm going to give you kind of just a very quick snapshot of some of the things that happen in our library at Barrow. So I'm going to walk through several grade levels and just give you little snippets of what they've done. So this is pre-K, and they were really working on their letters and shapes. And so they came into the library and used a tool called an Osmo, which gives them a picture, and they have to think about what that's a picture of, and then use letter tiles that they put in front of the iPad to spell out the word of what is in the picture. And the iPad recognizes those letter tiles and tells them if they're correct. They also can use tangram shapes to build different shapes on the table in front of the iPad, and it tells them if they're correct. Also, in conjunction with learning about their letters and shapes, they used an iPad app with our Sphero Robotics. A Sphero is a robotic ball that's programmed with an iPad. And they used a draw and drive app, so they would draw the letters that they were practicing in their class, or they would draw the shape that they were studying, and then the Sphero would roll on the floor in that pattern, that shape or that letter. So they had this instant feedback that they could see rolling on the floor, how they wrote their letter or their shape. Moving into kindergarten, kind of that idea of tinkering first, we used an iPad app called StoryKit, and they came in, and I basically just showed the app to the kids and said, you're going to have about 30 minutes to just press every button that you can find and see what it does. And so that's what they did. They pressed every button they could find, and they figured out so many things, whereas if I had stood up in front of them and said, this is the button that you click on to do this, it's very boring. So instead, it was put in their hands, and then at the end, they were able to come up and teach the rest of the class what all of the buttons did. Then they used time in their classrooms to work on stories that were taking traditional folk tales and turning them into their own versions. They worked on this a long time in their classroom as well as the library. And they used the app to change familiar versions of fairy tales. So this was the Three Little Pigs, so they changed it into the Three Little Cats. They drew their own illustrations on top. They recorded themselves reading the book, and then it was published online. So they were essentially publishing their own ebook that other people could read and listen to. And then their work inspired individual students. So there were other students who used that same app to create individual research projects that they were doing. This is another kindergarten student that did his own project with me in the library. In second grade, we did a huge project around persuasive writing, Black history, art. There were so many pieces of the standards that came into this project. But we called it the Barrow Peace Prize. And so students learned about 6 different people from Black history. They researched that person through several digital tools like Encyclopedia Britannica and PebbleGo. And our Google apps, they used a Google Doc to collect their information. They wrote a persuasive script trying to persuade people to vote for that person to be the winner of the Barrow Peace Prize. Now, we had to decide what a Barrow Peace Prize was, so most of them had never heard of the Nobel Peace Prize. So I did a Google Hangout with the whole second grade at one time. So all the students stayed in their classrooms, and I taught all 4 second grade classrooms from my office. I read them a story, and then I gave them a task to do in their class, which was to brainstorm what are the character traits that someone would have if they won the Barrow Peace Prize. So in their class on this collaborative doc, all 4 classes were writing the character traits they thought should go into this award onto this one document. Then they came back to the library and recorded their scripts in a tool called Flipgrid, where each student has their individual video recorded. And then we created a Google site where all of those videos were housed that we could easily share. So we started sharing it out through my blog, through social media, through friends that I know across the country. And so their work was seen by people all over the world. These pictures are students in Texas and Seattle viewing the students' work, and voting on who they think should win the Barrow Peace Prize. So since we decided we were doing a Barrow Peace Prize, we needed a prize. So one of our second graders came and worked with me in the library and designed a medal that was the Barrow Peace Prize medal. He designed it in a tool called Tinkercad, and then those were printed on our 3D printer. And so he received one, and then we gave one in recognition of the person who won the Peace Prize. And we Skyped with the developers of Flipgrid, the tool that we used, and they talked to the kids about how incredible their project was. This was when you walked in the library the other day. And so they were able to see Taylor's Peace Prize. We handed out some awards. I gave them several names of students, and they read those out over Skype, and we handed out certificates. So that's one of the projects that I'm very proud of, because it just pulls together so many different components of the standards, so many different people working within our school with kids. It gives them a voice, and it gets their voices outside of our walls. This is a project from 4th grade where students were designing, again on the 3D printer, a symbol that symbolized their hopes and dreams. And they spent some time really working on what their hopes and dreams were. And in art, they drew out the symbol on a piece of paper, and with me, they actually 3D designed it and printed it, and then used that piece of, it was essentially a stamp, they used that in art to create a clay vessel that then became a part of a huge grade level dream catcher that was a part of their Native American study and folktales. In 4th grade, they also did an augmented reality wax museum, where traditionally we've had kids do research and then stand in the hall and pretend they're a person, and they recite a little monologue over and over and over. This project, every student did a project that kind of matched their own learning style, and they turned it into a digital product in some way. So if kids still wanted to do that traditional monologue, they just filmed themselves doing that instead of standing out in the hall and saying it 50 times. They recorded themselves doing it once. So in art, they created a symbol that represented the person that they researched, and we used an augmented reality tool called Layer. And when you scan something with the Layer app, anything that's embedded on that picture pops up on the iPad. So all of their artwork was hanging out in the hallway, and as parents and family members were invited to come in, you'll see a dad and daughter sitting up in the corner. So instead of the parents walking down the hall and only getting to see their child do their thing one time, they were able to spend the whole time with their child walking down the hall and viewing every person from the grade's project, as well as learn about a new piece of technology. Our 5th grade does an incredible project about September 11th, where they really look at it from several angles. They read stories about, so I wanted to share this because it's not just digital. It's all the different ways that we get information and create. They read stories about September 11th. They read about heroes. They did research. They reflected on what it means to be a hero. They looked at the actual events of the day. And then we asked other people around the country to share their memories and stories of September 11th on Flipgrid. And we had these amazing stories from people all over, very personal stories that the kids could listen to and make connections to. And then at the close of the day, the kids were able to share their own reflections along with those voices that had already been recorded. At our school, we also have a makerspace, which is where our 3D printer is, but also a lot of other tools for creating and problem solving. We have kids who come in and work on robotics. They work with duct tape and see what kinds of crazy things they can make with that. These are students that are working with a tool called Makey, which is a tool that you can use to control your computer. So you basically create a computer program, and then you use this device outside of your computer to actually interact with that program. So I have some students right now who are designing their own video game, and they're programming it in Scratch. They're building the actual arcade box like you would see in an arcade, and they're putting their computer in it, running the wires through with Makey, and then you can walk up and press just like you're playing a video game, but they've built it all themselves. These are little bits which are circuits that snap together with magnets, and so there's a lot of tinkering with that to figure out how it works. But in the end, the idea is that you'll use these to make your own inventions. So with fourth grade, they did a lesson where they were studying the stars, and they created their own star charts that when they walked into a dark room, it would automatically turn on a light and project through the star chart and project the constellations onto the wall. They use little bits to do that. We also love our community partnerships that we've developed through UGA and other places. We have a UGA class that's taught on our campus every Tuesday, and so we have a lot of support for kids to use a lot of these tools. We also have a group of independent study students who are coming in every day from 11 to 12:15 and working with kids in our makerspace so that kids can come kind of during their recess time and sign up to use the makerspace and really just tinker and see what they can come up with on their own. I offer a lot of professional learning. All of our media specialists at our last meeting were able to use all of the maker tools that we have at Barrow and really get their hands on them and see what they are and think about how they could use them in their classroom. And then also did the same thing with the teachers for our school and plan to continue to do that. And kind of on the next step I have is I really want to get families in doing the same thing, so that it really is a community of makers and problem solvers. Final couple of things. Right, this week we're in the midst of World Read Aloud Week, which is a week where we do lots of Skyping with authors in classrooms around the world. Last year we had 36 sessions where we connected with 50 different places in 22 states, 2 countries, and 9 authors across 1 week to share stories and have conversations about books. This year we have 38 sessions, 15 authors, and I haven't counted up all the places yet because we're not done yet. We have more sessions tomorrow. But just another idea about this global collaboration. In November, we participated in America Recycles Day, and almost every grade level in our school came to the library, connected with another school, and we exchanged an authentic recycling problem that we had in our school, and they gave us their authentic recycling problem. We brainstormed for them possible solutions and handed it back to them, and they did the same for us. We collected all of the ideas on a tool called a Padlet. That's what all those words are over there on the corner. And those were things that we could take action on. In our school, we could see, now that we have all these ideas, what are our next step toward improving recycling in our school? So those are the kinds of things that I would like to see us do more and more of through our libraries and through our classrooms in Clarke County. David Lankes is one of my favorite writers for libraries, and he says that great librarians experiment with new services and are not afraid to fail rapidly. That there's a difference between failure and a mistake. A mistake is when you do something wrong and you don't learn from it. And a failure is something you try that's a little beyond your reach, but you can figure out how to do it better next time. So that's what I try to do. I try to reach high and know that even if I don't get quite where I thought I was going to get, that there's still something miraculous that was there. Thanks.
That was miraculous.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Brady.
How are the other librarians catching on and keeping up?
They all love all of these tools. They don't have quite as much as I do, but there's definitely interest from all of the libraries, librarians. At our meetings, I share the things that I'm doing, so there's definitely a positive attitude. Just not everybody has the same tools that I've been able to. A lot of the things that you see in our makerspace came from grants that I've written. Okay. So, it stretching that, about stretching a budget. It's just about thinking about how to spend your budget, where to find the funds to get all of these different tools.
So I'm wondering if, just to take off on Mr. Payne, could you just talk a little bit about what that role has changed for librarians? In other words, what they used to do in your mind in the traditional sense, and what do you do now as a group?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still, the library is still about connecting with information, interacting with information, but it's not just about that. To me, it's a place to consume, but it's even more importantly, it's a place to create. So still, all of these, you heard me say before, all of these different tools coming together, print, digital, they all weave together. It's not print or digital. It's how they work together. They're still both very important. But I definitely think that we're in this great position where we work with every single teacher in the school, we work with every child in the school, we work with every family in the school, and so we have this great potential to have a big impact not only on what happens in the library but what happens in the classrooms too. For me, a lot of the things that I do, they may start in the library, they go into the classroom, they go to the art room, they come back to the library, so it's just flowing out to in and out of the library. It's not they come to the library for this one little lesson that's isolated and then they go back. It all weaves together with what they're already working on. We look at ways to really maximize time too. How can we pull together adults? So you heard me before say I taught the whole second grade at one time. That happens often in the library. 2 classes will come together, or the whole grade level will come together, and we'll do a mini lesson in the floor, and then we'll split up, and then every adult that works with that grade level is in the same room, and we're all walking around and working with the individual students.
The reason I asked that, I'm a district director in 15 schools in my district, and it hurts me to see some of them moving ahead and some of them just standing still because they don't have the funds. The government is not giving them, the state and the government is not giving them the money. And you say you take grants. I think what we need to do is to make sure that all our librarians have some kind of way to get the funds so that they can advance together. I would not want some of the students in Clarke County to be moving so much farther ahead than other students. That's my concern.
Yeah, it's also that way with teachers, though. I mean, when you introduce something new, a new digital tool, not every teacher is going to adopt it at the exact same time. They're not ready. They need to see somebody using it and see. Some people are willing to just jump right in, and then other people, that's not their style. So there are a lot of librarians in the district who have, I have a 3D printer. Shannon has one at Stroud. There's one at Clarke Middle now. There's one at Hillsman. And so, with us doing it and showing this is how we're using it, then there's a tangible thing that people can look at and say, oh, that's how that would work. Right. And so it makes more sense, and they can justify kind of why they would purchase that rather than buying it and then it just sits in a box somewhere because they're not sure what to do with it.
It's incredible.
Very
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you.
You are incredible. I think we'll end with Mr. Clemens' presentation, so that ends my report. Okay, all right. Then we're going to move the agenda and we're down to board reports. Mr. Payne, GSBA.
No, the only thing that I have, I guess all of you receive emails, and you know that you should have emailed your senator today or call your senator before they voted. I don't know what the tally is. As soon as I get home, I would look at my email to see what Angela Palm has printed. They voted today.
Carl can.
They passed it 38-17. They needed 38 votes to get a supermajority for it to go to the voters in 2016, and they got 38 votes. And it now goes to the House. And we'll talk about this more, but it goes to the House where we think it'll be more difficult for them to get the supermajority vote. Okay. So for GSBA and all the rest of us, there's still time to make a difference, and we're just going to have to do what we can.
Yeah. Well, Sis called all the board members yesterday, and we did our email last night. But you said we just have to watch this and be diligent so that we can do whatever we can do in order to defeat it.
Could just be clear so we know without going into lengthy detail, this is a piece of legislation that requires 2/3 vote on the Senate, 2/3 vote in the House, so that it can propose a constitutional amendment which will go to the voters. This particular one would allow the creation of an opportunity school district that is overseen by one superintendent who would make all the decision that reports to the governor's office and would have the ability to do a range of decisions for schools who are in a metric. They got one metric now, there might be another by the time this comes around, to take over up to 100 schools in the state of Georgia.
That's my
Goes to the House, that's right. Blends right in then with.
Well, it goes right into mine. That's perfect. Mr. Payne, when I worked in Washington for Senator Coverdale, he had a term he would use when things were really harrowing. He would say they're coming over the walls. And that's kind of the way it looks right now in Atlanta. This seems to be the year for education, and not in a good way. Mr. Payne mentioned the Opportunity Scholar school district proposal, which is very severe, and Dr. Lanou has done some wonderful things to try to bring that to people's attention, and we'll keep doing that as time goes by and try to share with everybody on the board and in our community what they can do to try to influence the House vote, because that's what it really comes down to now, is to keep the House from getting 2/3 of the votes. And I really think there's a good opportunity to do that with GSBA and everybody else leading the way. So that's one thing. The second thing that just kind of popped up recently is Senate Bill 152, which would make changes in the teacher retirement plan. It goes from the traditional pension plan, what's called a defined benefit plan, to a blended plan between a pension and a 401k type program, which would be required for all new teachers beginning in 2017. Because of the fiscal note that's on that, they can't vote on it this year. They can have hearings on it and that kind of thing, but they can't actually vote on it till next year. So we've got some time to work on that and figure it out more, what's really in it. That seems to be consistent with a number of these proposals that we're talking about, is they just kind of pop up. You don't know anything about them, and it's hard to even understand what some of the provisions are. So that's the second one. We don't have to worry as much about it right now. The third one, which Dr. Lanou and I talked about yesterday, and really did just pop up out of the blue, is a voucher bill called Education Savings Account. On the House side, it's House Bill 243, and in the Senate, it's Senate Bill 92, I believe. Not sure I got that one right on the Senate side. I'll have to go back.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're correct.
And this one is particularly dangerous because I've followed voucher bills in a number of states, and there are about 3 states that have passed something somewhat similar to this, but I've never seen anything that's as broad, open-ended, no accountability. The funds, which are state funds that are supposed to be the state funds dedicated for kids to go to public schools, can be used by the parents for just about anything. Including post-secondary school education, which I don't even understand what that means. But I mean, I do understand what it means, but I've never heard anything like it before. So that's one that's, and what really worries me with a political background, what worries me is they pull this bill out of the Education Committee in the House and moved it over to the Finance Committee. And you probably get the drift on that. It's a lot more likely to pass in the Finance Committee than it is in Education. So there's sort of a, I don't want to use the term, well, I won't call it that. But it's tough.
No, it puts money from public coffers, into those students who are not in our public schools, unregulated, And the recent addition to that piece, it just came out, discussions, is that there were some caps on percentage on how many, but now the piece of legislation, after 2 years, there's no caps. They've lifted them.
First 2 years, the caps are pretty tight.
Yeah.
You really wouldn't affect that
But now
many
it's
people.
unlimited.
But after 2 years, it's unlimited.
Homeschool too.
It goes for homeschoolers, for
Homeschool too.
materials,
Yes.
teaching,
Yes.
and even a college savings
Right.
account.
Yes.
And it's very clear that there's no accountability here, there's no testing for public money, there's none of that.
I'll just close by saying we had our first committee meeting on February the 26th, and we'll have our next one on March the 26th. And we'd love for all the board members to come. This is going to be our organizational meeting, so it'd be great for us to all sit down and sort of do some strategic planning about where we're going and how it can be most effective. That's it.
What's the time on that 26th meeting?
Meetings at 5:30, probably go about an hour and a half, and we'll have food available at 5.
And I'm just, so that when you say it shows up both as a House bill and a Senate bill, and it's coming out of the Finance Committee, but doesn't the House have its own Finance Committee and the Senate has its own Finance Committee? And
They
so
do.
Yes.
How does
Yeah.
it come out sort of in unison from both committees?
Well, it'll have to come out of both chambers, so it'll start with in a committee in one and a committee in the other one. My point was, at least on the House side, by taking it out of the Education Committee where it ought to be and moving it to Finance, you're going to have people that aren't really very familiar with education issues and probably are more amenable to doing what the sponsors want them to do than
Yes,
what
yes.
Educators would want them to do.
They still have to pass houses, though. I mean,
They do,
yeah. The House can't do it by itself. They got to pass it to the Senate, and the Senate's got to approve it. So, still got some back and forth.
Got a long way to go, so we don't know whether, and I should add this, since you asked, Mr. Huff, the Senate version of that has been referred to a subcommittee pending, what it says is pending the Governor's Reform Commission action on that, and I don't know, I'm not sure what that means, whether the Reform Commission's going to deal with it before the session is over, maybe they won't. And that may be a way on the Senate side for it not to come to a vote. I'm just not sure at this point.
What I would like to do, if it's in order, Dr. Lanou has written a position paper on the Opportunity School District that I think is very,
Excellent.
very excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think you testified
You did.
on that behalf, and then also you've started communicating to our delegation on the
Yes, I have.
voucher
Right.
student savings account. I would like for this board to go on record in supporting his efforts, so that he knows that we're behind him in those efforts to try to beat back those two pieces of legislation. So I make that motion.
Yeah, just for rules of order, and I appreciate that, Greg. I'm just trying to go with our rules of order.
We can do it at a later
Yeah.
on the agenda.
And I would, if I can, I would go on record just to echo that as I send out to board members, I have received utmost support
Yes.
from the board
Absolutely.
on being a voice. So even though it may not be an action, because we can't take an action on it, but given our agenda, I will go on record as that I have been supported by every board member, that I feel very unified as a board that this is not a direction that's best for us, nor is it best for the educating of Georgia's children.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Thank
not
you,
on the
Greg.
agenda.
Excellent.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Parks, for leading that committee. So-
Could I add that there's one more, just because it's a little piece of interest, there's things that come up real quick. There's House Bill 502. That talks about revising parts of Title 20, sort of got a surprise amendment. The Senate's agreement with the change, but the names are not yet chosen. That charter systems will likely continue to use that name. The suggestion for IE squared is to go to strategic school systems, and that status quo could become traditional school systems. Just thought I'd let you know, just some naming changes.
And it took-
FYI.
I wish that was the biggest thing we had to worry about.
Yeah, it's not. I just, since it was germane to our conversations with charter, I thought I'd throw it out there.
It took them over 3 years to come up with those three
Take them 3 years to someone
Longer than
deciding to
that.
change it,
Yeah,
so,
over 3 years.
anyway,
Thank you.
that's a bill.
All right, well, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Parks, again. This is a policy, or this is a committee that is very much needed, and we're glad that you're at the helm. Mr. Worthy had an emergency, so he's asked me to fill in, so y'all bear with me because I have no practice at sitting in this chair. Next, we'll move the agenda down to the policy discussion. We have no policies to be presented for public review this week. We are some that required some longer discussion and things that will come in the next couple of months. So moving along to item G, action item number 1, minutes of our previous meetings. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. Are there any, can I have a motion for approval of the minutes from our work session, our called meeting, and our regular meetings? We had 3. Moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Mr. Payne. Are there any questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Mr. Davis?
Oh, no, I'm
Are
sorry.
you in favor? Okay.
Yeah.
You know-
I recommend approval of the financial report for
No, I
January.
was just thinking.
Sorry, no, you had to do that one. This
Okay,
one's mine.
all right.
You're right on. Recommend approval of the financial report for January 2015.
Moved by Ms. Williams.
Second.
By Mr. Davis. Any questions? All in favor? A unanimous vote.
Recommend that we adopt the policies as stated, and those been for public review for 4 weeks.
Any questions on any of those policies or motion? Mr. Payne, is there a second? Mr. Huff, thank you.
Can I just have a question?
Sure.
I know in the agenda, there was a link, but it was not functioning, concerning about pay scale for substitute.
I wasn't made aware, so I wish I could respond.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I haven't heard that yet.
I haven't,
There was something
So-
in
There was a while back, we had a problem with
Yeah, ask
the
Once in a
policies
while,
on
we
the
do with the
table.
link, right. I haven't heard that. I mean, I can look into it. I just,
but I'm talking about on the agenda itself, in the
You
supporting
mean when you
documents.
click on it and it didn't
Yeah,
come up?
Right,
No, nobody else reported they had any issues with that.
okay,
sorry, Board Member Davis,
okay.
Do you have any
it
questions?
it has not changed anyway since it was 4 weeks ago, so we have not made any edits to it.
No.
no.
The same thing that was in February.
Right,
Yeah.
same as it was in February.
Are we ready to vote? This would be to move policy IDE, KA, KB, GB, RJ, and the regs that go with it. All in favor? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay, given there's no vote for regulations or exhibits, those are the ones that come through policies well to align to the policies. If there are no questions, those will go into effect immediately. Recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Moved by Mr. Payne, seconded by Ms. Davis. All in favor? Unanimous vote. Number 8.
Number 8, gosh, we're appointing delegates. So Mr. Payne, someone, usually it's Ms. Thornton or Linda. Gosh, we're gonna need a little help. Apparently we need,
But I'm a district director, so I'm automatically a delegate.
Oh, good, okay.
so we need just an alternate.
Governor, yes,
And I think Mrs. Thornton had indicated an interest in being that alternate.
yes, she has.
So we're gonna vote her in,
Yeah,
whether she's here or not.
We need a-
yeah,
So the motion would be that due to his position, Mr. Payne would be the delegate, and Ovita Thornton would be the alternate. Would that be the recommendation?
Okay.
she would take my place if something happened to me,
And somebody will call her and notify her.
and somebody had to take her place.
Yeah, she'll get
Could
it
I,
in the
could I have
minutes.
that recommendation to you then?
And Mr. Payne, will you notify her that she is
Yes, I
the
will,
alternate?
yes.
Thank you.
Just need to- someone has to.
Make the motion. Okay. Would anybody like to make the motion to appoint Mr. Payne as the delegate
So
and
moved.
Ms. Thornton as the
Second.
alternate? All right. Moved by Ms. Davis, seconded by Mr. Parks. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Unanimous vote. Number 9.
Okay, and number 9's a little bit different because I haven't brought something like this to the board. For the last 3 or 4 years, we've been fortunate that our candidate pool has been deep in at least many areas, a little thin in other areas for teachers. And that was really due because there was a downsizing in the teacher force, people were looking for jobs. But that market has come back, you know, the more jobs, and we're seeing the pool get smaller. And it's getting smaller, especially in specific areas. And I will tell you, special ed, students with special, you can see Ellen shaking her head immediately, yes. Especially in some of our high-risk, high-needs classrooms, there are just not a lot of candidates and are good candidates. And so, I'd have the same for some other areas like mathematics or science or language specialty. If we're out there competing right now, Dr. Freeman has taken teams. We've been to job fairs across the state. So I'm asking something a little bit different. Typically, as you know, I have to recommend candidates for the board to hire and approve. The way it's said, the challenges with that is that when we see a good candidate, we can't offer them a contract until the next board meeting. And in this competitive market, they're not there.
Yeah.
Someone else will say, oh, fine, well, they're going to give me a contract tomorrow night, and I'll take that contract. So I'm not trying to exercise broad sweeping authority by the superintendent. But here, they will still come back to the board after, sort of like when we bought the air conditioners and then you approved them after I authorized to buy them. But this allows us to tell a candidate, you've got a contract. Now, if the board doesn't do that, we've probably got a problem. But please be aware that I will do judicious with every one of our responsibilities with Dr. Freeman on checks. But I'm asking that you authorize the superintendent, based after we go through our processes, to hire up to 12 positions in special education for the district and up to 10 general education positions in the highest needs areas. And that would typically, but not limited to, a science and mathematics. If you need an AP teacher, an AP chemistry teacher, I'm not going to find 6 candidates. I'm going to find 1, and if they're good, we need to offer them a contract after we do our due diligence. So that's what I'm asking the board to do in this.
What's the total number of positions?
22.
Then? 22.
I so move.
I'd second.
Okay, I have general positions. That says high need areas here. General positions.
Teaching positions.
Yes.
I sort of explained it, up here. Though, excuse me. Be clear. That would be teacher positions. I want to be clear that these are 12. Let me just let me just modify that. It'll issue teacher contracts.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, for clarity.
Yeah.
Just because I'll make sure these are teachers.
Yeah.
So we'll add teacher contracts to that.
Okay, so we modified the superintendent's recommendation to authorize the superintendent to issue teacher contracts for up to 12 positions in special education and 10 positions in high needs areas.
Yes.
And those are, for example, math,
Right.
science, and foreign language. And we have a motion from Mr. Payne and a second from Mr. Parks. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I've just got a point of information, and this is dealing with Dr. Freeman about where we've been going to in terms of teacher.
Would you like to come to the podium, Dr.
In terms
Freeman?
of
That's a
teacher
really good
recruitment.
question. And I would say this, we know some openings, and we should finalize our openings for next year.
We have, our plan is to give out allotments to our principals beginning on March the 18th.
Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
We have been to Albany State, Georgia Southern, University of Georgia. We are going to, let me see, I would have written them down so I could remember. We will be going to, of course, Georgia State again. We went to them in the fall, and we'll go to them as well in the spring. We have plans to visit Morehouse and Spelman and talk to them about the Georgia TAP program as well. And so we've been to about 6 so far with teams of principals and interviewed. We have not been to Fort Valley.
Got to go.
And we try to be responsible with our budget, and so if we didn't make it around this year, we'll go around next year, and we're careful with out of town because we do have to spend the night on occasion if it's far away. But we have met some excellent candidates, some diverse candidates, as you know. We've tried to broaden our net, and I think that we will have a successful year, especially with what Dr. Lanou is proposing at this time.
So it's
It's aligned with our
Albany.
strategic plan too, to recruit a more diverse teacher candidate population.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Been very aggressive.
Yes, Mr. Payne.
To the board and to Dr. Lanou, this is not the first time this has happened. We did this many years ago when there was high minority teachers, and we would go and the superintendent had the authority. We had a person who was in your position. He would call the superintendent. He had the position, and we could issue them a temporary contract.
Oh.
That was me, Mr. Payne. Yeah. All right. But I'm just saying that this is not the first time, and we were able to hire more minority teachers than any other. He can tell you any other school district, and we were doing so well till they invited us down to New Orleans to present to the National School Board down there, and it was sold out.
I believe it.
Sold out.
I believe it. We're competing. I tell you, we're competing.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm glad to make that motion, Dr. Lanou.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Unanimous vote, thank you. And number 10.
Recommend approval of personnel recommendations and addendum.
All right, is there a motion? Moved by Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Davis. All in favor?
Wait, can we, discussion?
Oh, sorry, discussion?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Mr. Davis.
just real quick. One thing that I don't think we talked about it formally, but kind of informally last fall about, and I talked to Mr. Payne about it this week as well, about doing exit interviews, and I know that Dr. Lanou had talked about doing something like that last fall. Nothing specific, but just.
I mean, Dr. Freeman and I have a conversation about exit views and exit surveys.
Right.
And
We have.
And you have exit surveys now?
We are working on those. Those take a while to develop, as the questions can. The questions have to be very well
carefully
developed.
That's right.
Very carefully
Yes.
developed. And so we will.
We are planning to.
So it is
move
doing,
forward.
okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Sorry about that. Ready for a vote now? All in favor? Unanimous vote, thank you. And then number 11.
Again, these are just a change order for Clarke Central. This is some expansion of classrooms, some expansion to help for the media center as we do that transition, and a bus loop ramp. Total is $133,595 change order. It will come out of the project. But again, still not bad considering we're doing that whole project 2 years,
No,
4-phase tight.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all, but
No.
I'd ask that we approve that change order.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Payne, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous vote.
Ted is not here. I would just say as a contractor, Ted and everybody is keeping these down to a minimum. Clarke Central. Oh, yeah.
He's right there.
Yeah.
And he's sitting. He's not standing tonight. He's sitting because it's a lot of work.
But Clarke Central, I mean, this is just great. I mean, he's doing a great job.
We ran out of room. We had to have these.
Is there a motion for adjournment? Moved by
Let
Ms.
me do that
Davis.
one. Yes.
Seconded by Mr. Parks. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much. Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.